Number 10. Seth Rogen and James Franco. Our first spot on this list is a double down, as the situation surrounding their run from the law was a shared experience. In 2014, Seth Rogen and James Franco starred in a little film called The Interview, in which they play a talk show producer and host respectively, and are granted the opportunity to interview the supreme leader of North Korea. Spoiler alert, at the end of that movie, the supreme leader is blown up in a helicopter and the heroes liberate the country. Needless to say, that did not sit well for Kim. When news of the film and its content began circulating a few months before its scheduled worldwide theater release, the Korean government hacked Sony's servers to watch the film and gained the private information of its employees. This led to Seth and James personally being threatened by Korean law enforcement that they were being viewed as enemies to the country and were therefore a threat. This caused Rogen and Franco to go into hiding, having Sony Studios hire 24/7 security at their private homes. The government continued to threaten the two until they had edited the movie to the supreme leader's approval. After a couple of months of hiding, Rogen joked about in his book Yearbook that one morning those guards that were in front of his house were just gone. Yeah, no goodbye, no good luck, nothing. It was decided that the film would make more money and be more accessible if it premiered online, making it one of the first full-length feature films to premiere on the Google Play Store. I got it on iTunes. Okay, I downloaded it illegally. Number 9. Bam Margera. Wham bam, thank you ma'am. Bam Margera is best known for bringing his body to the brink of destruction on numerous occasions. I run down the titles of things that he's been in, but most of them are just a little bit too raunchy for YouTube, so I don't know, Google his name and just figure it out for yourself. Unfortunately, Bam has also been one of the many Hollywood bad boys that have fallen into serious addiction and substance control problems. Since the mid-2000s, Bam has been in and out of prisons and rehabs, always being able to clean up his act momentarily, but unfortunately falling right back into his old habits. This is too bad considering just last year on fellow stuntman Steve O's podcast, Bam reported that he was doing very well and he had actually just finished a full year in rehabilitation. It seems that he has returned to his rambunctious ways though, as a few weeks ago it was reported that there was a warrant out for Bam's arrest following an altercation with his brother, which included Bam spouting very threatening threats to his entire family. A manhunt was issued for the stuntman, as his many run-ins listed him as dangerous and aggressive. After 3 days, the hunt was called off because Bam came to his senses and decided to turn himself in. So far, there is no news on the outcome of what actually happened to Bam, but we're pretty certain it's not great. It's probably not good. Number 8. Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller has been in the acting scene since 2008, first appearing in films such as After School and Perks of Being a Wallflower. They seemed like a normal functioning member of society until 2019, when cast and crew started noticing odd behavior from the actor. They'd often appear wearing capes or robes on set that were never actually a part of the wardrobe, as well as having scattered thoughts and motivation both on and off screen. In 2020, a video surfaced of Miller in a violent altercation outside of a bar in Iceland, which would be the first of many videos showcasing the actor's misdeeds, eventually leading to Miller breaking and entering into someone's house in Hawaii of all places. I guess they were a little bit chilly and they couldn't find a blanket or something, I don't know. Miller then went on to run from Hawaiian authorities for a little over a week, supposedly squatting in abandoned buildings and sleeping on the beach. They were eventually caught and charged with breaking and entering, as well as aggravated swatting, as Miller had apparently gotten into a fist fight just before breaking into the house. Yeah, 2 birds, 1 stone. Number 7. Shakira. Well, her hips may not lie, apparently she does. Famous pop singer Shakira made headlines in 2018 when Spanish prosecutors announced that Shakira failed to pay $14.5 million in European taxes between 2012 and 2014. Shakira has claimed that her primary residence at the time was in the Bahamas, but the authorities say that she was living in Barcelona during this period in a house that she had purchased in May of 2012. Shakira was adamant that this never took place, and the Spanish government were simply trying to ruin her name. She dodged the Spanish government for years until she was forced to pay the full tax debt plus $3 million in interest. But the law didn't stop there, as they apparently continued to berate her to this day, claiming that there's still money owed on her account. Shakira finally had enough and decided to stop avoiding the law and face them head on, beginning a lawsuit which she is said to be very confident to win. Number 6. Mark Wahlberg. That's right, Mackie Mac from the Funky Bunch once ran from the law for something that happened in his youth in 1999. 1989. From a young age, Mark actually suffered from substance control issues, which many linked to his parents' divorce when he had just become a teenager. He took a lot of his anger out on those around him while under the influence, with one instance leaving him on the run and in hiding from authorities for over a month. One night on his way home, Wahlberg ran into and began an altercation with two Vietnamese men using a large stick as a weapon. This escalated to the point where one man was left blind in one eye and Mark was charged with attempted extermination. This charge was very serious, and knowing what could come of it caused Wahlberg to pack his bags and bolt, staying with friends for a month until he was eventually found and arrested. He pleaded guilty to aggravated thwacking and was sentenced to 2 years, of which he only served 45 days. He's since become a Hollywood giant, starring in blockbusters like the Transformers franchise, and he's steered clear of the law ever since. Number 5. Michelle Rodriguez. While many fans know Rodriguez as the action star from the Fast and Furious franchise and most recently the new Dungeons & Dragons movie, she's best known by law enforcement for her many drinking and driving related incidents. These included a number of charges from driving under the influence to attempted swatting while under the influence. These sentences carried out a small jail sentence of only a few days each, but in one instance Rodriguez only served 4 hours of a 4-day prison sentence due to overcrowding, and she even served 2 days of a 60-day sentence for the same reason. While she may have been let out early, the charges did come with a significant amount of community service. Of course, as many of us know, when you are convicted of a crime, no matter how small, there tends to be a probationary period attached to it, meaning there's a certain amount of time when you are prohibited from violating specific rules and especially committing crimes. Unfortunately for Rodriguez, a hit-and-run incident in Los Angeles placed her in violation of said parole and a warrant was issued for her arrest. The actress was nowhere to be seen following the incident, as multiple attempts to contact her by police went nowhere. It turns out she had been hiding from them because she knew this time there would be no overcrowding loopholes. She was eventually arrested and was made to serve a 6-month jail stint for violation of her probation. Hey, that rhymed. Number 4. Mel Gibson. In 2006, the Braveheart star was pulled over by Los Angeles police who suspected Gibson was not in his right mind to be behind the wheel of a car. While Mel has had many run-ins with the law over the years for numerous reasons, it was his issues with the happy juice that got him on this list. As the officers pulled Mel over, they calmly went through the procedure of administering a roadside sobriety test, which Mel of course failed. When he was politely asked by the officer to enter the squad car, not even putting handcuffs on this guy, he responded by literally running from the law, like he sprinted away. According to the police reports, he made a mad dash towards his vehicle, but before the officer could start a foot pursuit, the go-go juice had already hit Mel's legs and he fell face first into the pavement. Way to make an impact, Mel! Get it? Because his face impacted the road and he's been in a movie called... Moving on! Number 3. Ja Rule. Ja Rule is a famous rapper, producer, and actor with multiple platinum records under his belt. He's also well known among the rich and powerful as a silly man who invests in silly things. In 2018, Ja Rule began promoting a music festival called Fire. The festival was said to be a private concert on a luxurious beach in the Bahamas. People were paying him and the co-founder of the event, Billy McFarland, millions of dollars to rent private yachts and mega mansions that just, didn't exist. After the festival went forward as scheduled, many people were shocked to find that their homes were actually leftover hurricane shelters from the island, and that their 5-star meals would be of a worser quality than many middle school cafeterias. Not to mention, almost every single event, perk, or promise from that festival was cancelled or fake, and eventually the entire festival itself was cancelled. Thousands of disgruntled concert goers formed a civil suit against Ja Rule and Billy McFarland and had enough evidence and cause to win the battle with no effort. This may be why Ja Rule bailed. He fled the island the moment things started to go wrong on site, and he was elusive in the public eye for several weeks. Eventually, Rule was contacted by law enforcement and made aware of the charges that were being brought against him. Luckily for Ja Rule, he was only a part of the civil suit, while his partner Billy McFarland was sentenced to 6 years in jail after the FBI found evidence of multiple counts of wire fraud. Number 2. O.J. Simpson. Today we will be discussing O.J. Simpson, and no, it's not for what you might think. While O.J. had a major run-in with the law in the 1990s, he was later acquitted of those charges being brought against him. However, one night in 2007, O.J. gathered up a crew of goons and made his way to the Palace Station Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. A sports memorabilia dealer named Bruce Fremong testified that the men entered his hotel room and stole memorabilia while threatening his life. The altercation lasted for 6 minutes, but the event was described to have been fast and loud, as the crew were strictly there to keep Bruce quiet while the others took the goods. For 3 days following the event, police were on the search for OJ, as not only was the memorabilia that they stole specifically his, but nobody was wearing a mask or anything at that time, so Bruce was very quick to point the finger. OJ was eventually located and charged with robbery and aggravated pushiness, and was sentenced to 33 years in prison. And at number 1, Jake Lloyd. Jake was the little boy that became a Sith Lord, playing young Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars Episode 1. While his character eventually becomes Darth Vader, Lloyd's personal life would turn out to be just as rough. Following the release of the film, Jake was actually picked on relentlessly by both his peers and Star Wars fans. He grew up with people hating him in public settings and cursing his name whenever Episode 1 was ever mentioned. Seriously, people were hating on this guy like he was Greta Thunberg or something. This was surely an attributing factor to his growth as a person, as over the years he had become more and more violent in the public eye, and was well known for being short-tempered. In 2015, police chased the 26-year-old Lloyd for 25 miles before he finally crashed off a roadside on Interstate 95 in South Carolina. He was not intoxicated at the time, but after being arrested and sent for a psychiatric evaluation, it was concluded that the young actor had been suffering from schizophrenia and he was held for treatment.
So starting off our list today at number 10, we have Gwyneth Paltrow. Apparently back in 2016, Gwyneth Paltrow slammed into a 72-year-old retired optometrist named Terry Sanderson while she was skiing in Utah. The actor then bolted down the mountain, leaving him unconscious in the snow. On Tuesday, March 21st, Terry's friend Greg would take the stand where he would say, "We were skiing down the run and I heard this scream. I looked over and I see this skier just slammed into the back of Terry. She slammed him very hard. She hit him directly in the back. The tips of his skis go out and he's face down spread eagle, with Gwyneth on top of him. There was about a second or two. Terry then stopped and witnessed Gwyneth slide down to the right and bolted down the hill. The Oscar winner then tried to say that she did not hit Sanderson and she was instead the victim of the crash. However, Terry would then reveal that her ski guide, Eric Christensen, would then say to him, "Gwyneth Paltrow just took your buddy out." When Terry was finally able to reach his friend, he was face down in the snow and he wasn't moving. However, it doesn't matter whose fault it was for the incident. It's the fact that Gwyneth didn't even make an effort to check on him, get him help, or exchange contact details. When Terry finally came to, he was unable to perform even the most basic maneuvers down the hill, and his friend even had to call ski patrol for help. Number 9. Michael Jackson. One of the most significant culture figures of the 20th century is Michael Jackson. With him making numerous contributions to the music, dance, fashion, his lifestyle and behavior became under speculation when he was accused of making unwanted advancements towards younger people in 1993. Although he denied the allegations and settled the lawsuit at the time in 2005, he was then yet again charged for another lawsuit under similar claims. After a pretty interesting trial, Michael Jackson would be found not guilty on all counts, something that most people don't even realize today. But to this day, people still speculate on the accuracy of this verdict, and others after his passing have even continued to come forward to voice their stories, and it makes you wonder if there's any truth to the claims, especially since he was found to be not guilty when he was in a lawsuit with the state of California. Number 8. Kendall Jenner. Remember the whole Fyre Festival disaster? Well, if you don't know what I'm talking about, well, pretty much it was a fraudulent luxury musical festival that was founded by con artist Billy McFarland and rapper Ja Rule. With the festival taking place in 2017, when attendees finally showed up, they would find out that it wasn't what they were sold on, and it became one giant free-for-all, as it was overpacked and underplanned. Now you're probably wondering how Kendall Jenner ties into all of this mess. Well, believe it or not, but Kendall actually ended up paying for this wild disaster because the model was paid to promote the Doom Festival to her followers, and it resulted her to be sued for $275,000 by Gregory Messier, a trustee of the festival creditors. And in the end, she knew she made a mistake promoting something she had no idea about, and she ended up settling the lawsuit with Gregory for $90,000. But honestly, it should have been more money because she scammed her fans out of thousands of dollars. Hey my little people, leeches. Are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Coming number 7, we have Sofia Vergara. After Sofia Vergara and her ex-fiance, Nick Loeb, split up, Sofia had to file legal documents in the hopes that she would be able to block him from being able to use her pre-embryos that they had frozen when they underwent vitro fertilization together. In the end, this would turn out into a ferocious court custody battle, and it went on for years. Finally, in 2021, Nick would lose his last gasp of legal efforts in the case against his former fiance's frozen embryos. Nick filed injunctions to a previous ruling by a Los Angeles Superior Court judge that granted Sofia a permanent injunction banning Nick from bringing the embryos to term without Sofia's written consent. A legal source would then tell Page 6 that the judge signed a final ruling in the case and that the court overruled all of Nick's final objections. But the fact that they even had to go to court is baffling, because you can't just bring a kid into the world without your partner's consent. Number 6, Taylor Swift. Now, it seems like Taylor Swift has had a number of different lawsuits over the years. However, while Taylor may be the one doing most of the suing, she did find herself being sued in 2015 by radio DJ David Mueller. David went on to sue Taylor for $3 million, and in the lawsuit he would claim that the accusations she made about him reaching under her skirt and groping her during a meet and greet were false. Taylor, being disgusted by the lawsuits, week later would file a countersuit against him, and just 9 days after the trial, she won. And just to prove a point, she only set her suit at $1 because she wanted to make a statement and set her precedent. And just like that, she proved that she isn't a force to be reckoned with in the entertainment industry. Number 5, Shia LaBeouf. Seems like Shia LaBeouf has become pretty problematic over the last couple of years, as back in 2020, musician FKA Twigs sued the actor. With Twigs being in a romantic relationship with Shia, it came to a shock to many that she was accusing him of making unwanted advancements, assault, and infliction of emotional distress. Shia, in turn, didn't deny Twigs' claims. He then decided to sit down with the New York Times for an interview to state his story, when he told the media outlet, "I have no excuses for my alcoholism or aggression, only rationalizations. I have been abusive to myself and everyone around me for years. I have a history of hurting the people closest to me. I'm ashamed of the history. I'm so sorry for those I hurt. There is nothing else I can really say." It seems like even after Shia admitted to his forms of aggression, he's still struggling to keep his anger and altercations under wraps, as back in September, he would be accused by Olivia Wilde for acting out on the set of Don't Worry Darling, which led to his firing. Number 4, Kelly Clarkson. There's so much drama when it came to Kelly Clarkson's lawsuit with Starstruck Management. So in the beginning, Kelly Clarkson was evidently represented by her ex-husband's father company, Starstruck Management Group, for years. And in the midst of her divorce, the company tried to sue Kelly for $1.4 million as they tried to claim that she owed the company money in commission. Kelly then decided to counter-sue the company and accuse Starstruck of procuring, offering, promising, or attempting to procure employment or engagement, which she said violated the California Labor Code. Her ex-father-in-law would then make a statement about the lawsuit where he would say, "It is unfortunate that Kelly is again attempting to avoid paying commissions that are due and owing to Starstruck to try to achieve some perceived advantage in her ongoing custody and divorce proceedings." However, it would then become clear that the $1.4 million was going to go towards her husband when the divorce was finally settled, as she would have to pay her ex $1.3 million, which is pretty interesting. And just like that, this is what we call a gold digger husband. Number 3, Kate Middleton. So it turns out that Meghan Markle hasn't been the only one in the royal family to sue a media outlet, as Kate Middleton has also found herself in a lawsuit with a company as well. So it turns out the Princess of Wales isn't as squeaky clean as she's made to look, as Kate Middleton has once had to sue French publication Closer after it not only took but published topless photos of her sunbathing while she was on vacation. Now, I think it's worth noting that it wasn't just her who sued the media outlet, as the entire royal family went on to sue the magazine, and thankfully in the end they did win. Closer then had to pay $199,000 in damages. In addition, the editor and owner each had to pay even more money for disrespecting Kate's privacy and taking photos that crossed the line without her permission. Number 2, Nicolas Cage. When it comes to Nicolas Cage's lawsuit, it's actually pretty interesting, because when Nicolas Cage sued fellow actor Kathleen Turner, he would claim that the actress made false claims about him in her autobiography, which she published back in 2008. Now, if you ever read the book, then you would know that in it she wrote that he had been arrested twice for driving under the influence, and that he was once once even arrested for stealing a dog. Nick's legal team would then allege her claims were completely crazy and entirely false. Later on, Nick would then win his case, and in result, Kathleen in her publishing company had to issue an apology to the actor. On top of the apology, they also had to pay for his legal costs, and instead of taking the money he was also suing them for, he also made an example out of Kathleen in the publisher by making them make a charitable donation in her name. And coming in at number 1 today, we have Keira Knight. When it comes to the news, we all know they can manipulate and use clickbait to gain views. So you can't believe everything you see or read online. Well, back in 2007, the Daily Mail would definitely learn their lesson on what happens if you write a fake story and can't back up your facts. So back in 2007, the media outlet actually found themselves being sued by actor Keira Knightley after they published a story about a 19-year-old woman who had passed away after battling with anorexia. If the article couldn't get any worse, they then went on to claim that Keira was also struggling with anorexia, and that her thin figure was the major factor that contributed to the other woman's passing. Obviously, in the end, she ended up winning her case, and the Daily Mail was forced to pay her 3,000 euros in liable damages. She then took the money and donated it to charity.
Number 10. The hypocrisy. Lizzo may have been a public advocate for body positivity, but as part of the lawsuit being brought against her, it seems like all of that positivity may have just been some act that she was putting on to make herself more universally loved. Now, I am not a small man. In fact, I have what many people consider to be a dad bod, and I'm cool with it. So I'm not dismissing the notion that we should love and respect ourselves, but like, she made it a massive part of her personality on camera when it sounds like the only body she actually cared about was her own. According to her dancers, Lizzo regularly shamed her team and made them feel that they were too large or gaining weight, with several dancers confirming these allegations. Liz made several posts over the years spreading the positive body image, but now she's being called out for being a massive hypocrite, which she 100% is. That's like the government telling you not to do something when they just do it anyway. They would never do that, right? Number 9. The leaked meeting. One of the dancers, Crystal Davies, who was a part of the lawsuit, was fired for secretly recording a meeting between herself and Lizzo. The meeting was about the dancer's performance on stage recently and Lizzo's apparent dislike of the weight that she had been gaining, claiming that she wasn't committing to her role. Initially, Davies only planned on recording the conversation for personal reasons. She has a condition that leaves her disoriented sometimes, and she wanted a backup on the off chance that she forgot what the meeting was about. After it was discovered that the audio recording existed, the dancer was promptly fired, apparently being pulled into a meeting just to get yelled at before they let her go, not even giving her a chance to speak. Lizzo exacting her star power to simply end the career of one of her main backup dancers is insane and is most certainly worth the lawsuit coming her way. Number 8. Her party lifestyle. One key factor of this lawsuit being brought against Lizzo is the place in which all these accusations went down. Lizzo was at a club in Amsterdam's red light district when she coerced, aka forced, one of her dancers to touch a woman's bare chest, despite saying several times that it was not something that she wanted to do. Facts are, this actually isn't the first time that Lizzo has been seen living it up at the club. Over the past few years, she's been known to be a regular party girl, spending a solid amount of time between touring to have just a good time and celebrate her success. But the amount in which she has been partying, despite being such an advocate for positivity, is wild. For someone who shares this message of loving yourself, she sure likes to drink the no-no juice, not to mention throwing her money around at every chance she gets. Nobody wants to talk about it, but that night in Amsterdam probably cost them a fortune. I don't know, I've never been. Moving on. Number 7. She made the dancers eat fruit. Alright, let's get into this Amsterdam situation. According to the lawsuit, Lizzo coerced her dancers to go out with her to a nightclub in the city's red light district. And once they arrived at the club, it was brought to their attention that the club encouraged dancers to wear their birthday suits. Dancers would also perform special shows in which they would launch things from their catapults. Nope, I don't like that one. Lizzo's team were encouraged to catch the launched items, which included various adult objects, and at one point the dancers were apparently encouraged to eat bananas that had been protruding from their fruit baskets. No, that's worse somehow. But that wasn't even the worst of it. Lizzo then told her crew to come with her to a club in Paris that was specifically filled with servers and staff wearing nothing at all. All the dancers were shocked and they were robbed of their choice to not attend. I think we we can all agree, being handed your food by someone in nothing but kitchen shoes sounds pretty uncomfortable. This is when Lizzo had heavily encouraged dancer Miss Davies to touch one performer on her chest, which she clearly did not want to do, but her boss yelled at her and told her to do it, so you know how that goes. Just an overall weird night, and I'm not even mildly shocked that someone came forward to call this out. Shady. Number 6. The dance captain. Lizzo is not the only person being named in this lawsuit. Her dance captain, Shirlene Quigley, is also facing a slew of accusations. According to the suit, Quigley shared lewd physical fantasies with dancers and the crew, and publicly discussed the purity of one performer while simultaneously berating all other dancers who had premarital relations. Now, sharing your beliefs is one thing, but trying to jam them down the throat of your employees, that's not a great move. According to several dancers from the past few years, whenever this woman was around, she was a nightmare, not only spouting her religious beliefs at anyone who had ears, but also attempting to convert several of the crew members. Quigley is being named personally in this lawsuit for creating a hostile work environment, having extreme racial biases, discrimination towards disabled employees, and a failure to prevent or remedy the situation. Number 5. Lizzo tried to distract us. Lizzo is just like the rest of the world. When she's had a few too many adult beverages, she's unable to keep her hands off her phone. According to a TikTok post from earlier this year though, Lizzo admitted to sliding into Captain America star Chris Evans' DMs. She had apparently sent him emojis of dashing away, women playing handball, and a basketball. Now I'm no detective, but was this supposed to be like, I'm coming to you Chris, balls in your court? Who knows what she meant. But to follow up that message, she released a TikTok in which she lip-synced to an audio clip. You know, that thing that makes people tons of money for doing absolutely nothing on an app. I was going to quote it, but I can't physically type things from TikTok because my brain starts to twitch, so it's my least favorite app in the world right now, and that includes Flappy Bird. The fact that she openly admitted to not only overindulging in no-no juice, but also directly suggesting that Chris's butt, his ball is in her net. I don't know what the emojis mean. Many fans believe she brought this to their attention to save some face when the official lawsuit was released, possibly knowing that this was coming for quite some time. Number 4. Her TV show. Now, Watch Out for the Big Girls is a TV show that only recently came into my life thanks to doing research for this video. The series premiered last year and follows Lizzo as she hunts for confident women to join her world tour as dancers. In fact, among the many cast members on the show were 2 of the 3 plaintiffs in this case, Ariana Davies and Crystal Williams. The show is just one of the many tactics that she seems to have used to make herself look better when the truth got revealed. Despite the show being a search for new talent, it turned into some kind of like a shield that she could use. How could Lizzo be so mean when she had a whole show dedicated to giving people jobs? Well, following the news of the suit, many people have called to question why Lizzo would work on the project when she's such an advocate for body positivity. Well, with no word from Lizzo yet as to her side of this story, the world is quickly canceling her from society, and we may just end up having to add her to our top 10 destroyed careers of 2023. Number 3. The hostile work environment. Lizzo created an extremely hostile work environment according to the plaintiffs, with several examples that have been backed up by former dancers and even some people involved with the documentary that she was trying to get off the ground. According to the plaintiffs, Lizzo made them work ridiculous hours, including up to 12-hour rehearsal days, and one of the dancers recounted an experience of having to use the washroom and being forced to do it in her pants while rehearsing so that she didn't lose any time. Like, Lizzo, if someone has to use the bathroom, let them go. Yeah, just let them go. It took longer for them to get the poor woman a new change of clothes than it would have taken her to go take 5, you know? Like, next time just let them pee. Let them pee in peace. In fact, as a form of humiliation on the part of Lizzo and her dance coach, they made Davies wear a see-through garment with nothing underneath and finish her day in front of the entire crew. Now, if that is not the definition of a toxic workplace, I'm not sure what is. Number 2. Claimed that the dancers were drinking. Lizzo has made many claims regarding the women involved in this case, but one of the most outlandish is the idea that the backup dancers were indulging in no-no juice before every show. Lizzo claimed that the backup crew was lacking in energy, simply going with the motions and getting off the stage quickly as possible. This caused Lizzo to accuse several of the dancers on her team of party hardying before they were supposed to do their job. jobs. Dancer Crystal Williams spoke out against the claim immediately, reminding Lizzo about the 12-hour rehearsal days and constant mental strain from working beneath her, being a contributing factor to the so-called dip in energy. Trying to claim that your crew has been slacking when they have the receipts? It's a bad move on Lizzo's part and will surely be one of the several reasons that she's cancelled this year. Number 1. She has said nothing. By far the shadiest thing of all, and the thing taking the top spot on this list, is the fact that Lizzo has said nothing about this at all, and it's not to say that she isn't aware of the suit. In fact, she posted on Instagram 3 separate times on the day that the news broke, but it had nothing to do with the lawsuit. Not only does that mean that she had her phone and was very capable of reading the news, but that she blatantly ignored the possibly thousands of comments and messages she is surely receiving. When something like this happens, it's important that the person being accused of the misdeeds to come forward and either fess up or deny everything. There's no in between. Being silent is the worst thing that you can do. It gives the internet more time to circulate negative stuff, and eventually it'll take over anything good that you try to do and will land you in a realm where no one can hear your screams or cries. Now, Lizzo could very well be taking her sweet time to draft up a proper statement so she doesn't actually say something wrong that the court can use later. Makes sense, because let's face it, this is about to be a rough few months for this woman. I'd wish her luck, but like a lot of people have backed up everything that's being said, so yeah.
Beginning the list at number 10 is Twilight Zone the movie. This lawsuit came from the filming of one scene, not the actual final product, and it's a tragedy that is unnerving, so if you have a weak stomach, well, I warned you. It happened while filming a scene in which Vic Morrow's character is trying to save 2 children. The tragedy came from a horrific accident that was caused by a mixture of a dangerously low-flying helicopter and a technology malfunction of some sort. While filming the scene, the helicopter spiraled out of control and landed on Vic and the 2 children. One child was decapitated and the other one was just completely crushed. The worst part about it was they were filming late at night and the child actors were working illegally because it went against child labor law regulations. Obviously they were faced with a lawsuit. It was the first time in Hollywood that a director had charges of deaths on a movie set. Vic Morrow's family settled the lawsuit within a year, but the trials for the children's deaths did not end until 1987, 4 years after the movie came out. Up next, number 9 is coming from The Dark Knight. Director Christopher Nolan and Warner Brothers were hit with an unexpected lawsuit from Batman. No, not the superhero himself, but an ancient city in southeastern Turkey. Apparently the movie scenes that featured Batman, which is basically everything, ruffled some feathers of the mayor of Batman, Turkey. I think it's so cool that there's a place called Batman. Anyways, in his lawsuit he claimed that Warner Brothers and Nolan had used their city's name without permission and the scenes involving the hero are illegal. In his statement he said, "There's only one Batman in the world. The American producers used the name of our city without informing us." The mayor also claimed that Hollywood executives made it impossible for his city to set up businesses abroad because of it. He also went as far as blaming Warner Brothers for several unsolved murder cases in their town, as well as a high female suicide rate in their city. How does that even make sense? He cited that the psychological impact of the movie caused those tragedies. Thankfully, the lawsuit didn't get very far, which is not surprising seeing as it's basically the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And I've heard a lot of ridiculous things in these lists. Filling in the number 8 spot is Frozen. The now iconic Disney movie was slammed with a lawsuit after some lady tried to claim that the entire movie was written about her. Some scenes in particular matched her own personal storyline and she was quick to file a claim about it. Who watches an animated fantasy musical with talking snowmen and thinks, hey, this movie is about me? Apparently a woman named Isabella Tanakumi. She sued Frozen for $250 million for supposedly stealing the movie from her autobiography. The movie is actually based around the old fable called The Snow Queen, which was written by Hans Christian Andersen in 1844. But that did not matter to Isabella and it didn't stop her from suing and making a report filled with 18 different similarity points between her life story and the animated movie. Some of those similarities were that the stories are about 2 sisters, they both take place on snowy mountains, and both of them experience some kind of sister trauma. You can probably guess that nothing came from this ridiculous lawsuit and it melted quicker than a snowman on a hot summer's day. See what I did there? I made a snowman joke! Like Olaf! Coming into the number 7 spot is from the movie 10 Things I Hate About Life. Now this one is a strange exception for our list because it technically will have to come from the movie trailer because that is the only thing that is left from the movie following the lawsuit. We all know that the movie 10 Things I Hate About You was an immediate success when it hit theaters in 1999, so 13 years later in 2012, the original director Gil Junger announced he was working on part 2. 10 Things I Hate About Life was about 2 suicidal people who meet and fall in love, and Evan Rachel Wood was supposed to star as the lead. So where did everything go wrong? Well, filming began in December 2012 and was shut down a few months later, which is kinda weird because if you watch the trailer, they have a lot of footage. According to the people at In Tandem, shooting stopped because Evan Rachel Wood got pregnant, and after she gave birth in July 2013, she refused to come back to film. A year later, the production company filed a $30 million lawsuit against the actress, demanding a trial and a jury. Bro, it's not that serious. But her side of the story is different, and she told the Hollywood Reporter that she was perfectly willing to finish the movie and said it came to an end because the production company ran out of money. She also said that they never paid her for what she was owed from the scenes that she did film. The case was eventually dropped and the movie never came out, obviously, but you can still find the trailer on YouTube, and it looked good. Like, I'm actually really bummed. I love Evan Rachel Wood and I would've loved to see that, so you suck. In at number 6 is 2001: A Space Odyssey. This lawsuit happened between two huge companies, and it was actually a movie scene that was used as evidence in the case, but then it just caused even more problems. Many years after the movie came out, you might have heard that Apple sued Samsung for copying its design of the iPad with their Samsung Galaxy tablet. Samsung put up an argument and said that they couldn't be sued for stealing the iPad design because they got the idea from somewhere else. So, who did they steal the idea from? Stanley Kubrick. In court, Samsung defended themselves with a still image from Stanley Kubrick's movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. In the still clip, it shows two astronauts eating and using tablet computers that look similar to iPads that Apple didn't invent until almost 30 years later. So they claim that there is no way they could have stolen the idea from Apple, and said that Apple stole the idea from the movie scene. But the lawsuit was too difficult to charge someone because tablet computers were seen in a variety of different sci-fi movies after that. The judge ended up ruling out the film as proof, but did allow Samsung to use the Fiddler and compact tablets, which were invented before the iPad. Halfway through the list, at number 5 is The Hobbit. Every movie scene from this movie landed in this lawsuit, and two studios went face to face in the battle. The Weinstein brothers faced off against Warner Brothers in a $75 million lawsuit. Warner Brothers claimed that the Weinstein sold the rights of The Hobbit to New Line Cinema 15 years ago and only agreed to share royalties with the first film of the series. But the Weinsteins will argue that they are owed royalties from all Hobbit films because of the substantial amount that they got from the first one. They feel that because The Hobbit is only one book but is turned into multiple films, it's enough proof that they should be compensated for all of them. In their argument, they called Warner Brothers ungrateful and greedy. I mean, the first installment made over $1 billion, so I would want in on that action too, for all of them. Here we are at number 4 with the movie Monster-in-Law, another time when someone wants to say that a movie scene replicates their own personal life experience. While watching the 2005 movie, a woman was upset to see that some of Jennifer Lopez's scenes were oddly close to her own experience. Isn't that the point? Like, aren't movies supposed to be relatable to the audience? No offense, lady, but I am sure there are a lot of people who can say that they've had a rough experience with their parents-in-law. But this woman named Sherry Gilbert believed that the movie was stealing directly from her. Apparently, she had written a screenplay about her relationship with her own mother-in-law back in 1998 and said that the similarities between the two are uncanny. She sued Jennifer Lopez, Jane Fonda, and others that were involved in the making of the movie. When Warner Brothers was hit with the lawsuit, they didn't even take it too seriously. How could you? Their lawyers made it clear that an annoying mother-in-law character was a very common concept for a film and in life. Alright guys, we are in the third spot with a horror movie, The Cabin in the Woods, although some people will argue if this was a horror movie or a comedy. This movie somehow ended with a $10 million lawsuit after an author claimed that the movie featured things from his novel, aka stole. Peter Gallagher wrote a book in 2006 called The Little White Trip: A Night in the Pines, and I guess it has some similarities to the film. The novel tells the story of 5 heroes who check out this cabin called the Brinkley House. 2 of the characters' names are Jules and Dura, and the group does some drinking and flirting before they get attacked by this evil presence. But in the end there is a plot twist and it all turns out to be part of a reality show, which is a pretty cool plot. Alright, so there are some similarities to the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, it tells the story of a group of students who visit a cabin in the woods and they also get attacked by an evil presence after they drink and do some weird flirting stuff. 2 of the female leads are named Julie and Dana, which is similar, and in the end it's revealed that the students are part of a secret government ritual. The author sued the director, Drew Goddard, Mutant Enemy Productions, Accusations and Lionsgate for $10 million, but the judge dismissed the case in 2015. The judge's final statement was, "While the two works share a similar premise, that premise is unprotectable. The concept of young people venturing off to such locations and being murdered by some evil force is common in horror films." That is a fact. Moving on to number 2 is Straight Outta Compton. The movie was directed by F. Gary Gray and showed the rise of the groundbreaking hip-hop group NWA. If you've seen the movie, you know that the villain in the story is the manager, Jerry Heller, who was a sleazeball accused of profiting off the band and cheating them out of their own hard-earned money. That's how the movie depicts his character anyways. But naturally, these movie scenes did not sit well with the real Heller. In 2015, he filed a lawsuit against Gray, Universal, Legendary Pictures, and everyone involved in the rap group. He demanded $110 million, claiming that the movie was, I quote, "littered with false statements that were meant to ridicule and lower him in the opinion of the community and to deter persons from associating or dealing with him." In June 2016, the judge allowed the case to move forward because the movie included a lot of the manager's own memoirs. The judge also pointed out that the movie implied that Heller tried to discourage Ice Cube from hiring a lawyer to review a business contract, but there was actually no evidence that it actually happened. However, the lawsuit didn't get very far because sadly, Jerry Heller passed away just a few months later. Alright you guys, we have made it to number 1. We have a lawsuit from Django Unchained. After watching the movie, screenwriters came after Quentin Tarantino, accusing him of theft. In December 2015, Oscar Colvin Jr. and his son Torrance J. Colvin filed a lawsuit against him, the Weinstein Company, and Columbia Pictures. They claimed that they ripped the movie plot straight from their screenplay that they had written called Freedom. In their claim, they point out some movie scenes that are similar to their writings. But it wasn't just like a he said she said thing. Apparently the Colvins had proof that they shopped their screenplay because they had registered it with the Writers Guild of America and showed it to agencies like CAA and William Morris. They even said that Tarantino's name was brought up on different occasions as a possible director, so somewhere along the way he would have had to have seen the screenplay. They were suing for an unknown number, but we do know that it was hundreds of millions. However, Tarantino was the last man standing and the lawsuit was dismissed in January 2017. Beginning the countdown list, number 10 is Rocky. The 1976 film has gone down in history for telling the story of Rocky Balboa, a small-time boxer who gets the chance to fight a heavyweight champion, Apollo Creed. The screenwriter, Sylvester Stallone, was first inspired by a real-life boxing match between Chuck Wepner and Muhammad Ali. It probably inspired a lot of people, which is why it's surprising to learn that he actually got sued for it. In 2003, Chuck Wepner sued Stallone, claiming that his fight scene was improperly used to promote the Rocky movies and other related products for commercial purposes. Stallone never denied the fact that he based the entire movie on Chuck's actual 1975 boxing match. However, he still sued him for $15 million, but both parties ended up settling outside of court for a disclosed sum. Stallone wanted to make it up to him by paying tribute in his sequel, Rocky II, by casting Chuck to be a boxer in it. But unfortunately, he failed the drug test and wasn't able to do it. Coming to the number 9 spot is The Basketball Diaries. True Leonardo DiCaprio fans will know that he starred in the 1995 movie before we ever saw him as Jack in Titanic. The Basketball Diaries tells the story of a high school basketball player growing up in Manhattan in the 60s, but it leads to a downward spiral of crime, addiction, homelessness, and prostitution. The movie has a lot of shocking scenes that try to capture the realism of an addiction, but one scene went a little further than the rest. It's the scene when Leo's character fantasizes about shooting up his classmates. In 1997, a shooting at Heath High School occurred, and a lawyer named Jack Thompson sued the film in 1999 for causing the attack to occur. He was an activist who would crusade against violent media, and he felt that the movie scene was the motive behind the real-life school shooting. I'm thinking that the judge realized how ridiculous and far-fetched that claim was because the case ended up getting dismissed in 2001. Cruising to number 8 is Pixar Animation. It all started with a lamp. You know the lamp that has been Pixar's mascot since 1986? It bounces on screen before the movie and then jumps on the letter I in Pixar? Well, the lamp is actually owned by a Norwegian lamp manufacturing company called Luxo. Throughout Pixar's years using the same lamp design, Luxo never had any issue. I mean, they probably enjoyed the free publicity. John Lasseter had even made a short film about the lamp back in 1986 called Luxo Jr., and they had no problem with it. But when Pixar started to sell a replica of their Luxo Jr. lamp character with a special Blu-ray DVD of the film Up, they sued. They didn't like that Pixar was technically using their design and making sales without permission. A few months into the lawsuit, Disney and Luxo reached a settlement and the lawsuit was withdrawn. For the time being, Luxo claims they have no problems when it comes to artistic renditions of their iconic lamp. All this because Disney wanted to use a lamp as their opening credits scene and it just so happened to look like a lamp that already exists. And at number 7 is Drive. Now this one is kind of a special exception to our list because it's actually the movie trailer that ended them with a lawsuit, which is a compilation of scenes, or just one really long one. In October 2011, a woman from Michigan named Sarah Deming filed a lawsuit against the Imogene Novi Movie Theater and Film District Distribution for making a misleading trailer. Apparently. In her claim she wrote, "The film distributor promoted Drive as very similar to the Fast and Furious or similar series of movies." She was upset that the movie was actually a methodical art film that didn't have much driving in it at all, let alone race car action. Sarah went after statutory damages under the Michigan's Consumer Protection Act and wanted the case certified as a class action lawsuit. The judge ended up siding with the defendants, thank God, and on October 15th, 2013, the court rejected her appeal. That is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. Here we are number 6 with 12 Monkeys. The 1995 movie tells the story of a convict named James Cole who decides to volunteer for a mission. He has to travel back in time in order to learn about the reason behind a brutal Holocaust. During one scene in the movie, actor Bruce Willis gets interrogated by this weird sphere object that somehow is able to examine his weaknesses. It was kinda cool and creepy at the same time, but apparently this device was already a thing and an architect named Lebbeus Woods thought it was similar to his neo-mechanical tower chamber piece, so he sued. And he sued successfully. Universal Pictures had to pay him a hefty sum and also give credit to him in the film. Guaranteed the director wishes he could go back and replace the prop with literally any other shape or object. Like anything else would have done. Halfway through the list at number 5 is Captain Phillips. The 2013 movie tells the real heroic story of Captain Richard Phillips. His container ship was attacked in 2009 by Somali pirates on the way to Kenya, and he had to find a way to negotiate and survive as well as save his crew. While watching the movie, most people would agree that it painted the captain as someone who tried everything in his power to prevent the hijacking. A scene from the movie helps paint that picture for us. Apparently, the crew members of the actual ship involved in the real shipwreck saw things differently. They claim that Captain Phillips knowingly went into pirate-infested waters in order to save time and money, rather than taking a different route and staying clear from pirates. They also said he had numerous warning signs that urged he should go further away from the African coastline. They ended up filing a lawsuit against the shipping company, Waterman Steamship Corporation, alleging that the Navy and crew members were the true heroes against the hijackers, not Captain Phillips. The lawsuit claimed monetary damages for their physical and emotional injuries during the awful attack. They were able to file a lawsuit against them because the company did not tell the American crew members that they were traveling in pirate-infested waters. They should have been told prior to being hired, and they also allege that Captain Phillips did not conduct any pirate attack safety drills. Who would have guessed that a movie scene would trigger a lawsuit like that? Coming into number 4 is Knowing. Nicolas Cage took on the lead role in the 2009 movie, which told the story of a teacher who comes across a time capsule that makes him believe he has the power to change the chain of events that are about to happen. In the movie, we get a look at a crazy piece of technology that can actually predict the locations of every natural disaster. Pretty cool, right? But there's just one little problem, and that is that the time capsule already exists. Well, that type of technology. Turns out it's been in development by a tech company called Global Findability, and they call it Integrated Information Processing System for Geospatial Media. They ended up suing Summit Entertainment and filed a patent infringement against them. Their claim states that the geospatial entity object code was used in the film, which goes against their patent for use without permission. In our third spot is one that came from the movie The Wolf of Wall Street. The movie tells the real life story of Jordan Belfort, who was convicted of fraud after cheating his way up to the top in stockbroking. A former Stratton Oakman general counsel, Andrew Green, was personified in the movie as Nicky, aka Rugrat. After watching some of the scenes that his persona is portrayed, he sued Paramount Pictures saying they didn't have permission and that the portrayal has ruined his real life business. The movie is based on real events, but of course is dramatized. He particularly wasn't a big fan of the scene when his character is partying with prostitutes at a bachelor party with silver trays containing illegal drugs. The lawsuit was ongoing for 4 years until it finally came to resolution in 2018. The court ruled in Paramount's favor, saying that the character facts in the movie have a different name, nickname, employment history, personal history, and criminal history. They stated that no real person was portrayed or defamed. So, Paramount took the win on this one. Cruising into number 2 spot is the house scene in The Conjuring. Alright, I'd probably be lying if I said just one house scene. It's definitely plural, seeing as basically the whole movie takes place in the house. For those of you who might not know, the movie is based on a true story of paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, who investigated the real-life haunting in the Perron family house. But the house they filmed at still exists, and the people who currently live there have sued Warner Brothers over the movie. Gerald Helfrich and Norma Sutcliffe claim that since the release of the movie, people have been harassing them and vandalizing their property. Unfortunately for them, they didn't get much success from their lawsuit, but they are still pleading their case in several online pieces. The movie scenes do show detailed hauntings of their house, and apparently people now know the layout of their home and it's become an invasion of privacy and danger to them. But like, why did you let them film there then? Or if you knew that it was filmed there, why did you move in? Know what I'm saying? Not saying it's your fault, but like, it's kinda your fault. Earning the number 1 spot on our list is a scene from Natural Born Killers. The 1994 movie follows the life of 2 young serial killers who become tabloid and TV celebrities thanks to the press. The press reports the pair as they go on a 52 people killing spree, showing a very controversial way that the media portrays criminals. During the 90s, 2 people robbed a convenience store and shot the cashier to death. They were arrested and are currently in prison, but the family members of the cashier did not feel that that was enough. They ended up suing the movie studio, claiming that the killing movie scene was the reason for the heinous real-life crime. However, in 2001, the lawsuit was thrown out because the judge said it was a free speech issue and was not intentionally meant to encourage violence. Once again, stop blaming movies for people's actions. Starting off our list, number 10 is a scene from Borat, which is not surprising at all. It probably wouldn't shock you to find out that the movie resulted in a number of different lawsuits, mostly by participants claiming they were misled about the nature and intent of the film. But one situation became a big legal case, and it all stemmed from the one frat boy scene. The one where Borat hangs out with those 3 drunk frat boys who end up making racist remarks. Turns out, 2 of the boys featured in the scenes were students of the University of South Carolina. Justin Say and Christopher Rotunda ended up suing the producers for defamation, saying that the film impacted their ability to secure jobs. They also alleged that they were given the alcohol on set and were told that the footage would never be shown in the US. Ultimately, their lawyers were trying to get them cut out of the film's DVD release, but the lawsuit ended up getting dismissed in February 2007. Hopefully people will understand that it was just a movie and it doesn't reflect who they are as people. Unless it does, then that's a you issue. Because you did that movie, got drunk, and said racist remarks. So like. In at number 9 is The Hangover Part 2, another movie that received several lawsuits. One because a stuntman was injured, but that was settled out of court, and another one when Louis Vuitton tried to sue them for using a fake handbag in one scene, but they were also unsuccessful at their lawsuit. There was one lawsuit that was more bizarre than those, and it had to do with a tattoo. No one could forget the hilarious scene in the movie when Stu wakes up with Mike Tyson's tattoo plastered across the side of his face. Apparently this scene ruffled the feathers of the tattoo artist who originally created the ink for Tyson. Victor Whitmill ended up suing production, saying that the design was copyrighted and that Warner Brothers never asked for permission to use it. But the studio fired back and said that a tattoo resides permanently on a human's face and cannot be included in a copyright law. The artist wanted to prevent the film from being released, but he was rejected. At the end of the lawsuit, Warner Brothers settled with him for a sum of money that has not been disclosed. I tried because I'm just as nosy. And they made minor changes to digitally alter the tattoo in the scenes. Moving on to number 8 spot is a scene from Resident Evil: The Final Chapter. In the 6th and final movie of the series, we see Alice riding her motorcycle across the post-apocalyptic zombie wasteland, and while filming the scene, the stunt woman named Olivia Jackson received life-threatening injuries. While filming the stunt, her motorcycle collided with a camera crane which had been lowered way too early. She was left in a medically induced coma for 17 days, and her injuries included crushed facial bones, severed neck artery, broken ribs, a disfigured face, torn fingers, nerve damage in her spinal cord, and the amputation of her whole left arm. For obvious reasons, she filed a lawsuit against the producers, including the director himself, Paul Anderson. She claimed that she was asked to do the stunt last minute with minimal preparation time and that they didn't have good weather that day. It was also reported that she was misinformed about her medical coverage and that it didn't cover the majority of her injuries like they said that it would. The case has been ongoing since 2015, but recently it was revealed that she's having her medical costs fully covered, which was a total of $248,256. In the number 7 spot is actually a few scenes from the horror movie Happy Death Day. Well, I don't think we can even call it a horror movie. I think it was supposed to be, but it turned out to be like a comedy in my opinion. And that's me being nice, because if you want the truth, the movie sucked, don't watch it. But that is not the point. The point is that Universal found themselves in a lawsuit for multiple scenes involving the masked killer. Fans started to share a side-by-side image of the masked killer, saying that it is the same design as King Cake Baby, the real mascot from the New Orleans Pelican School. The creator of the mascot, Jonathan Berticelli, sued Universal, claiming they used the mascot without permission. Not only was he seeking half of the existing profits from the 2 current films, but he also wanted 50% of future proceeds. The lawsuit is still ongoing, but in the court of social media, it is a divided split. Some fans think the resemblance is uncanny, while others believe it's not close enough to the original. What do you guys think? Look at the picture and tell me in the comments. Sliding to number 6 is a scene from American Hustle that caused a whole lot of unnecessary drama. This has to be the most ridiculous one on our list today. A lawsuit came from a microwave. The movie received 10 Oscar nominations, but it was also handed a lawsuit due to a scene that focused on the use of a microwave. It's the scene when Rosalind tells her husband Irving that she reads an article by Paul Brodeur claiming that microwaves remove the nutrition from food. Brodeur is an actual science writer for The New Yorker, and he has in fact published books on the apparent dangers of microwave radiation. Yet for some reason he sued the film's production team, saying that he never suggested that microwaves reduce the nutrition of the food and that they used a false claim to his work. He sued for $1 million in libel damages, saying that the false claim in the movie had tainted his reputation. But in the end, the lawsuit was dismissed because the court decided that Jennifer Lawrence's performance in that scene would not be taken seriously by anyone anyways. And they are probably right, because she was a riot. Halfway through the list at number 5 is one from Avatar. The director of the wildly successful franchise, James Cameron, faced some heat after he brought us his vision using both his mind and technology. His vision skyrocketed to the top of the box office and became the second highest grossing movie of all time. But the real question is, was it actually his vision? After the first scene we saw that introduced us to the Pandora world, an artist came forward saying the movie copied some of his artwork. Roger Dean sued James Cameron for $50 million, claiming that in the Pandora design he clearly copied key pieces from his art collection. The court agreed that the movie may have been influenced by his work, but they ended up ruling in Avatar's favor. Here we are at number 4 with The Devil's Advocate. The famous 1997 movie starring Al Pacino has gone down in cinema history, but so did the lawsuit it had against the production team. It all came from a movie scene in which we see that Al Pacino's character has some human sculptures in his apartment. One important scene in the movie features them, so it's not like they were just lost in the background somewhere. An artist named Frederick Hart thought they were similar to the piece of his called Ex Nihilo. His piece was built in Washington, D.C.'s Episcopal National Cathedral, so he teamed up with the cathedral and they both sued Warner Brothers. They ended up coming to an agreement, and Warner Brothers edited the offending scene for the home video release. They edited out the sculptures and put a sticker on the VHS copy saying that there is no relation to the artwork. Coming in at number 3 is a scene from Couples Retreat. You may have forgotten about the 2009 rom-com movie, but there is a scene in the movie that probably stuck with you. And coincidentally enough, it is the scene that resulted in a lawsuit. It's the one where the character Joey masturbates using a pamphlet that features a former model, Irina Krupnik. The model ended up filing a $10 million lawsuit against them for invasion of privacy and misappropriation of likeness. She claimed that she signed a contract for the release of the photo a decade before the movie was made. She was actually paid $1,500 for the release, but said she never agreed for it to be used as any kind of pornographic context. The judge ended up throwing out the case and said that she signed a complete release on the picture 10 years prior, which means it could be used in any context because it was released. He also pointed out that she was posing in a bikini, so she would have to be naive to the fact that it could be used as a sexualized or erotic image. And for the record, she's also done nude photo shoots in her past career, which the court thought was hypocritical. Which it kind of is. Taking over the number 2 spot is Ghostland. The indie horror film came out in 2018 and was hit with a big lawsuit after a horrible on-set accident that took place during one of the scenes. The 19-year-old actress Taylor Hickson played a young version of the character Vera and ended up with a disfigured face after filming a scene. In the scene, her character was banging on a glass window. She was instructed to pound harder on the glass by the director, and it shattered in her face, causing her to fall through the window. She was rushed to the hospital and had to receive 70 stitches in her face alone. She was left with permanent scarring on her face and sued the production team, claiming that she's lost work due to her injuries. She also said that they didn't take the basic steps to create a safe filming environment, like using safety glass or stunt doubles. The lawsuit is still ongoing, but the producers were insensitive when it comes to marketing the movie, and they used a picture of a girl with a fractured face similar to hers. In our #1 spot is a scene from the movie Apt Pupil. This one is definitely a lot heavier than the other ones on our list, so here's your warning. The 1998 psychological thriller features a scene where a 16-year-old high school student, Todd, imagines his showering classmates as Jewish prisoners in the gas chamber of a concentration camp. Pretty intense stuff. Just 2 weeks after the scene was filmed in California's Elliott Middle School, a 14-year-old movie extra came forward and filed a lawsuit claiming that he was told to strip naked for the scene, but he refused to do so. Not long after that, 2 other boys, aged 16 and 17, made similar claims, one admitting that they actually did what they were told. All 3 boys ended up filing a lawsuit saying that the experience traumatized them, and they filed for damages against the filmmakers for emotional distress, invasion of privacy, and negligence. Unfortunately, no charges were pressed as there was enough evidence in the case. The director, Bryan Singer, ended up reshooting the scene with adult actors instead.
Number 10. Seth Rogen and James Franco. Our first spot on this is going to be a double down, as the situation surrounding their run from the law was a shared experience. In 2014, Seth Rogen and James Franco starred in a film called The Interview, in which they play a talk show producer and host respectively, and are granted the opportunity to interview the Supreme Leader of North Korea. Spoiler alert, at the end of that movie, the Supreme Leader is blown up in a helicopter, and the heroes liberate the country. Needless to say, that did not sit well for Kimmy. When news of the film and its content began circulating a few months before its scheduled worldwide theater release, the Korean government hacked Sony servers to watch the film and gain the private information of its employees. This led to Seth Rogen and James Franco being personally threatened by Korean law enforcement that they were being viewed as enemies to the country and were therefore a threat. This caused Rogen and Franco to go into hiding, even having Sony Studios hire 24/7 security guards at their private homes. The government continued to threaten the two until they had the movie edited down to the Supreme Leader's approvals. And after a couple of months of hiding, Rogen joked in his book Yearbook that one morning everybody woke up and the guards were just gone. Nobody said goodbye, there was no good luck, no nothing. It was decided that the film would make more money and be more accessible if it was premiered online, making it one of the very first full-length feature films to ever premiere on the Google Play Store. Number 9. Bam Margera. Wham! Bam! Thank you, ma'am! Bam Margera is best known for bringing his body to the brink of destruction on numerous occasions. I'd run down the titles of things that he's been in, but I can't really say most of those because they're a little too raunchy for YouTube, so just Google his name and have some fun. Unfortunately, Bam has also been one of the many Hollywood bad boys that have fallen into serious addiction and substance control issues. Since the mid-2000s, Bam has been in and out of prisons and rehabs, always being able to clean up his act momentarily, but unfortunately falling right back into his old habits. This is too bad, considering just last year on fellow stuntman Steve-O's podcast, Bam reported that he was doing really well and actually had just finished a full year in rehabilitation, but it seems like he may have returned to his rambunctious ways. Last week it was reported that there was a warrant out for Bam's arrest following an altercation with his brother, which included Bam spouting some very threatening threats to his entire family. A manhunt was issued for the stuntman, as his many run-ins with the law had listed him as dangerous and aggressive. After 3 days, the hunt was called off, Bam came to his senses and decided to turn himself in. So far, there is no news on the outcome for Bam, but we can say for certain it's probably not going to be good. Number 8. Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller has been on the acting scene since 2008, first appearing in films such as After School and Perks of Being a Wallflower. They seemed like a normal functioning member of society for quite some time until 2019, when cast and crew started noticing odd behavior from the actor. They would often wear capes or robes to set that were never a part of the wardrobe. They were also reported to have a lot of scattered thoughts and motivations, both on and off screen. And in 2020, a video surfaced of Miller in a violent altercation outside of a bar in Iceland, which would only be the first of many videos showcasing the actor's misdeeds, eventually leading to Miller breaking and entering into someone's house in Hawaii of all places. I guess they were just a little bit chilly and couldn't find a blanket. Miller then went on the run from Hawaiian authorities for a little over a week, supposedly squatting in abandoned buildings and sleeping on benches. They were eventually caught and charged with breaking and entering as well as aggravated swatting, as Miller had apparently gotten into a fist fight before breaking into the house. I don't know, 2 birds, 1 stone, right? Number 7. Shakira. While her hips may not lie, apparently she does. Famous pop singer Shakira made headlines in 2018 when Spanish prosecutors announced that Shakira had failed to pay $14.5 million in European taxes between 2012 and 2004. Shakira has claimed that her primary residence at the time was in the Bahamas, but the authorities say that she was living in Barcelona during this period in a house that she had purchased in May of 2012. Shakira was adamant that this never took place and the Spanish government were simply trying to ruin her name. She dodged the Spanish government for years until she was forced to pay the full tax debt, plus $3 million in interest. But the law did not stop there, as they apparently continued to berate her to this day, claiming that there's still money being owed on her account. In fact, Shakira finally had enough and decided to stop avoiding the law and face them head on, and has started a lawsuit which she is said to be very confident to win. Number 6. Mark Wahlberg. That's right, Macky Mack from the Funky Bunch is on this list. He once ran from the law for something that happened in his youth in 1999. From a young age, Mark actually suffered from substance control issues, which many link to his parents' divorce when he had just become a teenager. He took a lot of his anger out on those around him while under the influence, with one instance even leaving him on the run and hiding from authorities for over a month. One night on his way home, Wahlberg ran into and began an altercation with 2 Vietnamese men using a large stick as a weapon. This escalated to the point where one man was left blind in one eye and Mark was charged with attempted extermination. This charge was very serious, and knowing what could come of it caused Wahlberg to pack his bags and bolt. He was staying with friends for a month until he was eventually found and arrested. He pleaded guilty to aggravated thwacking and was sentenced to 2 years of prison, which he only served 45 days of. He's since become a Hollywood giant, starring in blockbusters like the Transformer franchise, and has been able to steer clear of that law ever since. Number 5. Michelle Rodriguez. While many fans know Rodriguez as the action star from the Fast and Furious franchise, and most recently from the new Dungeons & Dragons movie, she is best known by law enforcement for her many drinking and driving related crimes. These included a number of charges from driving under the influence to attempted swatting while under the influence. These sentences carried out a small jail sentence of only a few days each. In one instance, Rodriguez only served 4 hours of a 4-day prison sentence due to overcrowding, and only served 2 days of a 60-day sentence for the exact same reason. While she may have been let out early, the charges did come with a significant amount of community service, and of course, as many of us know, when you are convicted of a crime, no matter how small, there tends to be a probationary period attached to it, meaning there is a certain amount of time where you're prohibited from violating specific rules and especially committing any crimes. Now, unfortunately for Rodriguez, a hit-and-run incident in Los Angeles placed her in violation of said parole, and a warrant was issued for her arrest. The actress was nowhere to be seen following the incident, as multiple attempts to contact her by police went nowhere. It turns out she had been hiding from them because she knew exactly what was going to happen. This time, there would be no overcrowding loopholes, and she was eventually arrested and made to serve the entirety of a 6-month jail stint for violating her probation. Number 4. Mel Gibson. In 2006, the Braveheart star was pulled over by Los Angeles police who suspected Gibson was not in his right mind to be behind the wheel of a car. While Mel has had many run-ins with the law over the years for numerous reasons, it was his issues with the happy juice that got him on this list. As the officers pulled Mel over, they calmly went through the procedures of administering a roadside sobriety test, which Mel of course failed. When he was politely asked by the officers to enter the squad car, not even putting him in handcuffs, he responded by literally running from the law. Like, he sprinted away. He just got right out of there. Meep, meep. According to the police reports, he made a mad dash towards his vehicle, but before the officers could even start an on-foot pursuit, the go-go juice had already done its job, and Mel's legs had fallen asleep, causing him to fall face first into the pavement. Way to make an impact, Mel. Get it? Because his face impacted with the and moving on! Number 3. Ja Rule. Ja Rule is a famous rapper, producer, and actor with multiple platinum records under his belt. He is also well known among the rich and powerful as a silly man who invests in silly things. In 2018, Ja Rule began promoting a music festival called Fire. The festival was said to be a private concert on a luxurious beach in the Bahamas. People were paying him and the co-founder of the event, Billy McFarland, millions of dollars to rent private yachts and mega mansions that just simply didn't exist. After the festival went forward as scheduled, many people were shocked to find that their homes were actually leftover hurricane shelters from the island, and that their 5-star meals would be of a worse quality than most middle school cafeterias. Not to mention almost every event, perk, or promise from that festival was cancelled, including the festival itself. Thousands of disgruntled concert goers formed a civil suit against Ja Rule and Billy and had enough evidence and cause to win that battle with basically no effort. This may be why Ja Rule bailed. He fled the island the moment things started to go wrong on site and was elusive in the public eye for several weeks. Eventually, Rule was contacted by law enforcement and made aware of the charges being brought against him. Luckily for Ja Rule though, he was only a part of the civil suit, while his partner Billy McFarland was sentenced to 6 years in jail after the FBI found evidence of multiple counts of wire fraud. Got out of that one pretty good, eh, Ja? Number 2. O.J. Simpson. Today we will be discussing O.J. Simpson, but no, it's not for what you might be thinking. While O.J. had a major run-in with the law in the late 90s, he was later acquitted of those charges being brought against him. However, one night in 2007, O.J. gathered up a crew of goons and made his way to the Palace Station Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. A sports memorabilia dealer named Bruce Fromming testified that the men entered his hotel room and stole memorabilia while threatening his life. The altercation lasted for 6 minutes, but the event was described to have been fast and loud as the crew were strictly there to keep Bruce quiet while the others took the goods. For 3 days following the event, the police were on the search for OJ, as not only was the memorabilia they stole specifically his, but he wasn't wearing a mask or anything at the time of the robbery. He just walked in face first. So, needless to say, Bruce was very quick to point the finger. OJ was eventually located and charged with robbery and aggravated pushiness and was sentenced to 35 years in prison. Bye, buddy. And number 1, Jake Lloyd. Jake was the little boy that became a Sith Lord, playing young Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars Episode 1. While his character eventually becomes Darth Vader, Lloyd's personal life would turn out to be just as rough. Following the release of the film, Jake was actually picked on relentlessly by both his peers and Star Wars fans. He grew up with people hating him in public settings and cursing his name whenever Episode 1 was even mentioned. Seriously people, we're hating on this kid like he's Angela Merkel. Chill. This was surely an attributing factor to his growth as a person, as over the years he had become more and more violent in the public eye and was very well known for being short-tempered. In 2015, police chased the 26-year-old Lloyd for 25 miles before he crashed off the side of a road into Interstate 95 in South Carolina. He was not intoxicated at the time, but after being arrested and sent for a psychiatric evaluation, it was concluded that the young actor had been suffering from schizophrenia and was being held for treatment.